Okay, so this tutorial is about how to kind of measure your site unofficially, just for this assignment. So your site plan, you're going to need to know how to measure your site. Being that this is a pandemic, and I know some students live in apartments, and we'll just use the floor plans for apartments to throw on just a random house. And so I'll use Google Maps to just grab a house, and I'm just going to click on the satellite view, and I'm just going to zoom in. And I'll pick a nice site to work with. This looks cool. And so here, I'm just going to grab this address. And that way I can take this over to Google Earth. Open that up. And the reason why I'm using the two different ones is one, so I can just grab a random site like you see here and the address. So the address is what I really wanted to grab. So I grab the address from here and go over to Google Earth once it's loaded. Just pop in the address, and you can use your mouse wheel to zoom in, zoom out. I would recommend hitting this 2D button down here, and then you can hold the mouse wheel down and turn this around. It looks like this is an alley back here, which is fine. There's a garage back here. Looks like it, yeah. Perfect. So this looks cool. We can go ahead and use this property. And that's fine. Again, we're not going to go knock on these people's houses and measure their property. But we can use some landmarks. So this line right here, all the way up to probably right here, and this sidewalk up to this line right here is a pretty good idea of where the property lines are. This is kind of small, which is fine. That's okay. Here is a measuring tool. And what you want to make sure is that this is automatically set to feet. And again, so we have to determine which is part of this property and which is not. And so this driveway is part of this property. This driveway is part of this property. So I want to make sure I measure everything right. So I want to zoom in, if it allows me. Okay, so I had to reload the page. This over here, reload, and it froze on me. So I'm just going to get as close as possible. And, you know, this isn't extremely accurate, but, you know, for this assignment, this is good enough. So 40 feet. So I'm going to write that down, 40 feet. So I just left click and drag, and then I'll hit escape. Write that down, 40 feet. And then from this corner all the way down to probably right about here, 140. Write that down. Hit escape. And this should be 40 feet across as well. Yeah. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this line going down here. So I'm making sure that this line is straight visually. So 140 feet, and this line is straight. And I know it goes through the house or this garage. And that's probably because it's going through the overhang. And that's okay. The overhang, I guess, back in the day was permitted to go onto the property line. And it looks like there's a carport and there's a few parking spaces as well back here. So, and that's all right. So it looks like it's 140 by 40. And so what else you want to measure is the sidewalk. You want to measure that. So that's like 5 feet. About 7 feet to the street. The curb 6 inches. And then you also want to measure where the house is on the property. So the property line is here, and you want to go in a little bit. And remember, this has overhang, so you want to go in a little bit into the roof. So about 23 feet. And it looks like that it goes from here to there, 9 feet. Yeah, 9 feet. Let's see how wide this is. Oh, it's 10 feet. So it probably goes 10 feet. So if it's 10 feet from here to here, it's safe to assume that it's 10 feet all the way to this garage. And you want to measure the concrete. So that's about 15. You'll want to measure the grass. So from here to here, that's about 30 feet. You measure from here to here. You want to take all these measurements because you're going to identify, this little driveway ramp right here, the curb, this little grass patch, the trees. You want to get right in the center. There it goes again. So the trees, you want to get in the center, and you kind of want to get the radius of the tree. So the average radius, let's say this is 9 feet radius, and that way you can draw the tree. You also want to get the distance from the sides, so that way you know where to place the tree. If you have other trees like this that are just way too big, you kind of want to guesstimate where it's at, or probably just choose a better property that has smaller trees. This just happens to have one tree. And then it looks like there's some bushes here. Oh, there's a small tree right here, so probably get this, looks like 5-6 feet radius. So get that, get the measurements of the sidewalks, and all the concrete pathways to the house. And it looks like, okay, so there's some steps, and it looks like that might be air conditioning unit. For this assignment, you don't really have to show that, and that's okay. But yeah, there you go. Like I said, we're going to just use the site. We're not going to use the house itself. If you live in an apartment or someplace that's communal that you can't really measure, like if you live in someplace like this, we'll use the site, and we'll just use the floor plan of where you live and throw it on this site. And then, if this is the garage, we'll measure the garage, and you can use that as your detached garage. And that's it. That's how you can measure without. It's not accurate, but it's close enough. So, but if you have the means to measure a sidewalk. You saw steps to the house. You should probably Definitely measure the steps to the house because that's useful, especially with elevations. It does show how high it is off the ground, because houses aren't built directly on the ground all the time. So if you have steps that go into the house, you should measure the steps, count the steps. There you go. All right. And then the roof, I'll show you how to do roof plans. Let me see if I can get a better roof to look at. I had a really good one before. I should have stood with that one, but I was trying to get a decent address. So here's a roof plan. You can see there's a ridge here, there's a ridge here, there's a little ridge here, here. This is kind of the apex. This is the apex. It's sloped down this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and that way. This way. This one is sloped this way, that way, that way. You can see the different ridges, and they're pretty light right here. It's probably because there's flashing here or some sort of protectant, so water doesn't leak into the materials. Same with this. It looks like this one has, yeah. So it slopes this way, that way, that way. And so you can get a good idea of how to build a roof by looking at the roofs that have already been done. And so I'll show you how to do that on the roof plan that you're going to do on your site plan. And that's it for this